Hare Krishna. Welcome again to the live studios here in the Darshan room of Sri Sri Radha Kalachandji Dham in Dallas, Texas. Again, we're with the cream of the crop of Vaishnavas in this community, the ones that come every night to hear the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Those who have a taste for Srimad-Bhagavatam, the Bhagavatam says itself, are the topmost devotees. The goal of life is to get a taste to hear the Srimad-Bhagavatam and the holy names of the Lord. So thank you all for coming. I'm deeply touched by the numbers of Vaishnavas who are coming into view or have become a part of this group. I just was told this morning that the number that have joined the group, not just the viewers, but have joined the group, have gone over 200. That means regular visitors. So thank you so much. You're inspiring me like anything, and I want to inspire you to share this experience with others so that we can grow our group and take more devotees back to the lotus feet of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So before we read, we're going to be beginning with chapter 11, text 39. I'll speak a little bit about that. But first, we're going to read the Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, the wonderful prayers glorifying the Srimad-Bhagavatam by Srila Sanatana Goswami. Even Rupa Goswami, we are considered Rupanugas. Rupa Goswami is our leader. We are Rupanugas, the followers of Rupa Goswami. But Rupa Goswami considers Srila Sanatana Goswami, his older brother, as his spiritual master. So here is Sanatana Goswami's prayers to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of light to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandorita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshak Shadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Mandistadaka Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu, saduta dayin, atini chotata kada, hanamuncha kadachin mam, premnarit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we've been hearing from the first of the 9 Yogendras, Kavi. There were 9 questions asked by Maharaja Nimi to the Navi Yogendras, the 9 Yogendras. The first of which was, what is the highest good? And the answers to that question by Sriman Kavi started on text 30 of this chapter, chapter 2 of the 11th canto. Now we're on text 39. And when we get to text 44, then we're going to hear the answer to the second question. Okay, here we go. The rest of Kavi's answer to Maharaj Nimi to the question, what is the highest good? Text 39. An intelligent person who has controlled his mind and conquered fear should give up all attachment to material objects such as wife, family, and nation, and should wander freely without embarrassment, hearing and chanting the holy names of the Lord, the bearer of the chariot wheel. The holy names of Krishna are all auspicious because they describe his transcendental birth and activities, which he performs within this world for the salvation of the conditioned souls. Thus, the holy names of the Lord are sung throughout the world. We're getting now to the end of what is the highest good, huh? Purport. Since the holy names, forms, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unlimited, no one can hear or chant about all of them. Therefore, the word loke indicates that one should chant the holy names of the Lord that are well known on this particular planet. Within this world, Lord Rama and Lord Krishna are very famous. Their books, Ramayana and Bhagavad Gita, are studied and relished all over the world. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is gradually becoming famous all over the world, as he himself predicted. Pritibiti achi jatta nagarari gram, sarvatra pachara hoibe morenam. In every town and village on this earth, the glories of my name will be chanted. Therefore, in conformity with the authorized statement of this verse of Srimad-Bhagavatam, the Krishna consciousness movement emphasizes the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaur, Bhakta Vrinda, along with the Panchatattva Mahamantra. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, this blissful process of chanting the holy names of the Lord without any material conception is called Sugaman Margam, or a very enjoyable path. Similarly, Lord Krishna has described the process of Bhakti Yoga as Susukam Kartum, very joyfully performed. And Srila Lochan Das Thakur has sung Saba Avatara Sada Shiromani Kevala Ananda Kanda. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's process for worshipping Krishna is Kevala Ananda Kanda, simply joyful. In this connection, Srila Prabhupada stated that people in any part of the world can assemble, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, read from authorized books such as Bhagavad Gita as it is, and accept Krishna Prasadam sumptuously. All right. We can do it. Just as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did in Navadvip. To be successful in this program, however, Narottam Das Thakur has warned, Vishaya Chadiya. One must give up material sense gratification. If one indulges in material sense gratification, surely he will be in the bodily concept of life. One who is in the bodily concept of life will undoubtedly have a materialistic understanding of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, by considering the Lord's pastimes mundane, one will come within the category of Mayavad, or impersonalism, in which one considers the transcendental body of the Lord to be a creation of material nature. Therefore, the word asanga in this verse is very significant. One must chant the holy name of the Lord without mental speculation. One must accept Lord Krishna as he presents himself in Bhagavad Gita, wherein he states that he alone is Purushottama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that his transcendental form is eternal, Ajopisan Avyayatma. Srila Jiva Goswami has emphasized, Yani Shastra Dvara Sat Parampara Dvara Chaloke Gitani Janmani Karmani Cha Tani Shrinvangayangs Cha. If one wants to be successful in chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, one must adopt the process as it is coming down in the Sat Parampara, the transcendental disciplic succession. And the Sat Parampara can be identified by reference to bona fide Vedic scriptures. Contrary to the opinion of uninformed critics, the followers of Krishna consciousness are not mindless or fanatical. They intelligently follow the systems of checks and balances called Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. That is, one must accept a bona fide spiritual master, who must in turn be confirmed by the opinion of great saintly persons and revealed scriptures. If one accepts a bona fide spiritual master, follows the example of great saintly persons, and becomes conversant with authorized literature such as Bhagavad Gita as it is, and Srimad-Bhagavatam, one's program of chanting the holy names of the Lord and hearing about the Lord's pastimes will be completely successful. As Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evang yo vetitattvataha chaktva dehang punarjanma naitimam iti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has stated that throughout the world, the Supreme Lord is known by many names, some of them expressed in vernacular language, but any name used to indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is one without a second, beyond the influence of material nature, can be accepted as a holy name of God, according to this verse. That is indicated by the word loke. One should not misinterpret the word vicharet, one should wander, to mean that while chanting the holy name of Krishna, one may go anywhere or engage in any activity without discrimination. Therefore it is stated, Vishared asanga. One may wander freely, but at the same time, one must strictly avoid the association of those who are not interested in Krishna consciousness or who are engaged in sinful life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has stated, Asat Sangha Tyag e Vaishnava Achar. A Vaishnava is known by his complete avoidance of all mundane association. If in the course of traveling and chanting the glories of the Lord, a Vaishnava preacher finds a submissive non-devotee who is willing to hear about Krishna, the preacher will always give his merciful association to such a person. But a Vaishnava should strictly avoid those who are not interested in hearing about Krishna. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, those who do not engage in hearing the astonishing pastimes and holy names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who do not relish the Lord's pastimes, are simply executing mundane, illusory activities or indulging in false, materialistic renunciation. Frustrated living entities sometimes take to dry impersonalism and avoid the descriptions of the Supreme Lord's eternal name, form, qualities, entourage, and pastimes. But if one gains the association of a pure devotee, one gives up the path of dry speculative argument and becomes situated on the actual Vedic path of devotional service to the Lord. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the word Dvaita, or duality, expresses the false understanding that some object has a substantial existence independent of Krishna. The Mayavad conception of Advaita, which lacks any spiritual distinctions, is simply another manifestation of the mind's function of acceptance and rejection. The eternal appearance and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead never contradict the concept of Advaya Gyan, or transcendental knowledge beyond duality. Text 40. By chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee is fixed in his vow as an eternal servant of the Lord, and he gradually becomes very much attached to a particular name and form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As his heart melts with ecstatic love, he laughs very loudly, or cries, or shouts. Sometimes he sings and dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to public opinion. Very famous verse. Evam vratak sapriya namakirtya jatanurago drutachitta uchchahi asatyato roditi rauti gayati unmadavan nrityati lokabayaha. Purport. In this verse, pure love of God is being described. Srila Sridhar Swami has described this spiritual situation as samprapta prema lakshana bhakti yogasya sangsara dharmati tam gatim, or the perfectional stage of life in which one's devotional service to the Supreme Lord is enriched by ecstatic love. At that time, one's spiritual duties are entirely beyond the scope of worldly affairs. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is the following statement by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, quote, "While chanting the holy name of the Lord in pure ecstasy, I lose myself, and thus I laugh, cry, dance, and sing, just like a madman." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately approached his spiritual master to ask him why he had apparently become mad by chanting the holy name of Krishna. His guru replied, quote, "It is the nature of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra that anyone who chants it immediately develops his loving ecstasy for Krishna." In this connection, Srila Prabhupada has commented, "These symptoms are very prominently manifest in the body of a pure devotee. Sometimes when our students of the Krishna consciousness movement chant and dance, even in India, people are astonished to see how these foreigners have learned to chant and dance in this ecstatic fashion. As explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, actually this is not due to practice. For without extra endeavor, these symptoms become manifest in anyone who sincerely chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has warned us in this regard about the ungodly sahajas who imitate the pastimes of the Supreme Lord in an unauthorized way, neglecting the standard injunctions of Vedic scriptures, foolishly trying to take the position of Krishna as Purushottam, and thus making a cheap farce of the exalted pastimes of the Lord. Their so-called ecstatic symptoms, like crying, shivering, and falling on the ground, are not to be confused with the advanced features of devotional service described by Sridhar Swami as Samprapta Prema Lakshana Bhakti Yoga. Srila Prabhupada comments in this regard, one who has attained this bhava stage is no longer under the clutches of the illusory energy. Similarly, Krishnadas Kaviraj states, quote, for a devotee who has actually developed bhava, love of Godhead, the pleasure derived from dharma, artha, kama, and moksha appears like a drop in the presence of the sea. As already stated in the previous verse of this chapter, Gayan Vilajo Vicharet Asanga. One exhibits the ecstatic symptoms of love of Godhead when he is asanga, free from all attachment to material sense gratification. The word lokabhaya in this verse indicates that a pure devotee on the platform of prema, love of Godhead, is not at all concerned with ridicule, praise, respect, or criticism from ordinary people in the bodily concept of life. Krishna is the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and when he reveals himself to a surrendered servant, all doubt and speculation about the nature of the Absolute are vanquished forever. In this connection, Sripad Madhvacharya has quoted a verse from the Varaha Purana. Quote, some devotees of the Lord exhibit external symptoms, acting like madmen. Others are introspective devotees, and still others partake of both natures. It is by one's steadfastness and by the merciful vibrations emanating from one's mouth that one's devotion can be judged, not otherwise. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given a very nice example to illustrate ecstatic laughing and other symptoms of love of Godhead. Oh, that thief Krishna, the son of Yashoda, has entered the house to steal the fresh butter. Grab him. Keep him away. Hearing these menacing words spoken by the elderly gopi, Jarati, Krishna immediately prepares to leave the house. The devotee to whom this transcendental pastime is revealed laughs in ecstasy. But suddenly he can no longer see Krishna. He then cries in great lamentation, oh, I have achieved the greatest fortune in the world, and now it has suddenly slipped from my hands. Thus the devotee cries loudly, so my Lord, where are you? Give me your answer. The Lord answers, my dear devotee, I heard your loud complaint, and so I have again come before you. Upon seeing Lord Krishna again, the devotee begins to sing, today my life has become perfect. Thus overwhelmed with transcendental bliss, he begins to dance like a madman. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also notes that the word druta chitta, or with a melted heart, indicates that one's heart melted by the fire of anxiety to see the Lord becomes like Jambunadi, a river of rose apple juice. The Acharya further points out, Nama kirtanasya sarvot karsham. The present and previous verse clearly distinguish the exalted position of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, chanting and hearing the name and glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also emphasized this by quoting, Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nama eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, 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 gatyaranyata. In this age of Kali, there is no alternative. There is no alternative. There is no alternative for spiritual progress but the holy name, the holy name, the holy name of the Lord. In his purports to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada has given an elaborate explanation of this verse. That's in Adi 776, for those who want to read more about that ecstatic topic. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur recommends that we study the following verse in this connection. Quote, "Let the garrulous populace say whatever they like. We shall pay them no regard. Thoroughly maddened by the ecstasy of the intoxicating beverage of love for Krishna, we shall enjoy life, running about, rolling on the ground, and dancing in ecstasy." Padyavali 73. Text 41. A devotee should not see anything as being separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Ether, fire, air, water, earth, the sun, and other luminaries, all living beings, the directions, trees and other plants, the rivers and oceans, whatever a devotee experiences, he should consider to be an expansion of Krishna. Thus, seeing everything that exists within creation as the body of the Supreme Lord, Hari, the devotee should offer his sincere respects to the entire expansion of the Lord's body. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami has given this example from the Puranas. Quote, "Because of a greedy person's obsession with money, wherever he goes, he sees an opportunity for acquiring wealth. Similarly, a very lusty man notices women everywhere. In the same way, a pure devotee should see the transcendental form of the Lord within everything, since everything is an expansion of the Lord. It is our practical experience that a greedy man will see money everywhere. If he goes to the forest, he will immediately consider whether it would be profitable to purchase the forest land and sell the trees to a paper mill. Similarly, if a lusty man goes to the same forest, he will look everywhere for beautiful women tourists who might happen to be there. And if a devotee goes to the same forest, he will see Krishna there, knowing correctly that the entire forest, as well as the sky canopy above, is the inferior energy of the Lord. Krishna is supremely sacred, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And since everything that exists expands directly or indirectly from the body of the Lord, everything is sacred when seen through the eyes of a self-realized person. Therefore, as stated in this verse, pranamet, one should offer one's sincere respects to everything. Srila Jiva Goswami has mentioned that we should see the personal form of Krishna everywhere. This verse does not approve of the impersonal, atheistic philosophy that everything is God. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya has quoted from the Harivangsha, quote, Because everything is under the control of the Supreme Lord Hari. Everything is considered to be his body. He is the original source and master of everything. And therefore, nothing should be seen as different from him. Nonetheless, one should not foolishly conclude that there is absolutely no difference between the material universe and Lord Vishnu, who is full of his own unique spiritual qualities. The example is often given of the sun and the sun's rays. The sunshine is nothing but an expansion of the sun globe, and therefore there is no qualitative difference between the sun and its rays. But although the sunshine is situated everywhere, and although everything is a transformation of the sun's energy, the sun globe itself, the source of the sunshine, is not everywhere, but is situated in a particular place in the vast sky and has its own specific form. If we penetrate further into the sun globe, we shall find the sun god, Vivaswan. Although pseudo-intellectuals of the modern age, who are incapable of even counting the hairs on their own heads, will consider the sun god a mythological figure, it is actually the foolish mythology of modern men to think that such a sophisticated apparatus as the sun, which provides heat and light for the entire universe, can function without intelligent administration. Transformations of solar energy make life possible on Earth, and thus the Earth can be understood to exist of an endless variety of secondary manifestations of all-pervading solar energy. So within the sun planet is the personality Vivaswan, the chief administrator of the solar functions. The sun globe itself is localized, and the sun's rays expand everywhere. Similarly, Sri Krishna, Shyamasundar, is the original personality of Godhead, Bhagavan Swayam. He expands himself as the localized supersoul, Paramatma, in everyone's heart, and finally, he expands his potency by his personal bodily glow, the all-pervading spiritual effulgence called the Brahma Jyoti. The entire material manifestation floats within the rays of this Brahma Jyoti. Just as all life on earth is a transformation of the all-pervading rays of the sun, the entire cosmic manifestation is a transformation of the spiritual rays of the Brahma Jyoti. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Yasya prabhavato jagaranda koti shvashesha vasudadi vibhuti binam tad brahma nishkalamanantamashesha bhutam govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is endowed with great power. The glowing effulgence of his transcendental form is the impersonal Brahman, which is absolute, complete, and unlimited, and which displays the varieties of countless planets with their different opulences in millions and millions of universes. Therefore, the Brahma Jyoti is the spiritual light that emanates directly from the body of the Lord. And therefore, this universe is a transformation of that spiritual energy, and therefore everything that exists is in one sense connected directly with the personal body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is emphasized here that we should offer respect to everything that exists, recognizing it to be the energy of the Lord. The example may be given that if a man is important, his property is also important. The president of a country is the most important person in the country, and therefore everyone must respect his property. Similarly, everything that exists is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and should be respected accordingly. If we fail to see everything that exists as the energy of the Lord, we risk the danger of drifting into the Mayavad philosophy, which according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most deadly poison for one trying to advance in actual spiritual life. Mayavadi Bhashya Shunile Haya Sarvanash. If we try to understand Krishna alone without the expansion of his potency, we shall not understand such statements in Bhagavad Gita as Vasudeva Sarvamiti and Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. As already explained in this chapter, Bhayam Dvitiya Biniveshatak Syat. Fear or illusion arises from thinking that there is something not dependent upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, in this verse, the specific process for overcoming this fearful illusion is given. One must train one's mind to see everything that exists as an expansion of the potency of the Supreme Lord. By offering respect to everything and meditating upon everything as part of the body of the Lord, one will become free from fear. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, Krishna is the well-wishing friend of every living being. As soon as one understands that everything that exists is under the powerful control of one's most beloved friend, one comes to the stage in which the whole universe becomes a blissful abode, Vishwam Purna Sukhayate, because he sees Krishna everywhere. If Krishna's personality were not the source of everything, and if everything were not connected to Krishna, one might be proper in concluding that Krishna's personality is a material manifestation of some impersonal truth. As stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmad Yasya Yataha, the absolute truth is that from which everything emanates. Similarly, Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, I am the source of everything. If we see anything totally disconnected from the personal body of Krishna, we may doubt whether Krishna's personality is actually the absolute source described in the Vedanta Sutra. As soon as one feels this way, he becomes fearful and should be understood to be under the control of the Lord's illusory energy. Interesting. Brahmabhuta prasanatma na shochati na kankshati. Krishna says in the Gita that as soon as you become actually liberated, then you become joyful, naturally jolly all the time. And na shochati na kankshati means you don't lament and you don't hanker. You don't lament over what you've lost, and you don't hanker for what you don't have. So therefore, the test is whether we become free from fear. Because if you're fearful, you can't be jolly. You can't be actually happy all the time. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has warned us that if we do not see everything as a manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we shall become victims of Palgu Vairagya, or immature renunciation. Whatever we see as disconnected from Krishna will have in our mind no relationship to Krishna's service. But if we see everything as connected to Krishna, we shall use everything for Krishna's satisfaction. This is called Yukta Vairagya. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one who has experienced his own true identity understands that all things exist as paraphernalia for giving ecstatic pleasure to the Supreme Lord. Thus one becomes free from the separatist vision in which one sees the world as existing for one's own enjoyment. In the transcendental state, whatever a devotee sees reminds him of Krishna, and thus his transcendental knowledge and bliss increase. Because the impersonal philosophers fail to see everything as belonging to the personal form of Krishna, they reject this world as having no true existence, Jagan Mithya. But since the material world is an emanation from the supreme reality Krishna, it does in fact exist. Its non-existence is simply a creation of the imagination, and one cannot possibly act on such an imaginary platform. Therefore, having proposed an illusory theory and being unable actually to live on such a platform, the impersonalist comes back to the material platform for altruistic or gross sense gratificatory activities. Since the impersonalist does not accept the personal proprietorship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he does not know how or for whom to engage the things of this world. And since it is impossible to reject this world totally while living in it, he runs the risk of again becoming entangled in material fruitive activities. Therefore, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Klesho dikatadas sham, the impersonal path of imaginary philosophy is very painful to follow. The conclusion is that this verse is spoken to help the devotee of the Supreme Lord advance in Krishna consciousness. It can be understood from the previous verses of this chapter that the ultimate goal is pure devotional service to Lord Krishna. If one falsely interprets this verse to sanction the imaginary Mayavad philosophy that everything is God, one will simply become bewildered and fall from the path of spiritual advancement. What a purport. Huh? What a purport. Text 42. You know, Prabhupada used to say, well, he still does in his books, but that if something is clear, it doesn't require interpretation. It's only when something isn't clear that interpretation is required. Such and such a village is on the Ganga. Village can't be on the Ganga, so then interpretation is required. It's on the banks of the Ganga. But the poetic language says it's on the Ganga. But these purports, I don't know about you, but these purports are so clear, crystal clear. All the thoughts following logically one to another, developing the theme of the verse from the point of view of all the major acharyas that Srila Prabhupada used, to write his purports. It's a masterpiece. Sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry, but some people may not agree, but it's a masterpiece of literature. Okay. Moving right along. Text 42. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three, this is a very, very famous verse. I'll read the Sanskrit. Bhakti parishanubhavo viraktir anyatra chaisha trika eka kalaha prapadyamanasya yatashna taksius tushti pushti chut apayo nugasam. Translation. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this analogy as follows. Bhakti or devotion may be compared to tushti, satisfaction, because they both take the form of pleasure. Parishanubhava, experience of the Supreme Lord, and pushti, nourishment, are analogous because both sustains one's life. Finally, virakti, detachment, and chud apaya, cessation of hunger, may be compared because both free one from further hankering so that one may experience shanti or peace. A person who is eating not only becomes uninterested in other activities, but increasingly becomes uninterested in the food itself, according to his satisfaction. On the other hand, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, although one who is experiencing the blissful personality of Godhead Krishna becomes uninterested in anything other than Krishna, his attachment to Krishna increases at every moment. So there's a difference also. Therefore, it is to be understood that the transcendental beauty and qualities of the Supreme Lord are not material, since one never becomes satiated by relishing the bliss of the Supreme Lord. The word viraktihi is very significant in this verse. Virakti means detachment, whereas tyaga means renunciation. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the word renunciation can be used in a situation in which one considers giving up an enjoyable object. But by considering everything to be potential paraphernalia in the service of Lord Krishna, as described in the previous verse, one need not give thought to renunciation, for one uses everything in the proper way in the service of the Lord. Yukta vairagyam uchyate. The very pleasant analogy of a good meal is given in this verse. A hungry man busily consuming a sumptuous plate of food is not interested in anything else happening around him. In fact, he considers any other topic or activity disturbance to his concentration on the delicious meal. Similarly, as one advances in Krishna consciousness, one considers anything unrelated to the devotional service of the Lord as obnoxious disturbance. Such concentrated love of Godhead has been described in the second canto of the Bhagavatam by the words Tivrina Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param. One should not make an artificial show of renouncing the material world. Rather, one should systematically train the mind to see everything as an expansion of the opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as a hungry, materialistic man, upon seeing sumptuous food, immediately desires to put it in his mouth, an advanced devotee of Krishna, upon seeing a material object, immediately becomes eager to use it for the pleasure of Krishna. How fun is that? Without the spontaneous hunger to engage everything in the service of Krishna and to dive deeper and deeper into the ocean of love of Krishna, so-called realization of God or loose talk about so-called religious life is irrelevant to the actual experience of entering the kingdom of God. This is so poetic, so beautiful. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the path of Bhakti Yoga is so joyful and practical that even in the stage of sadhana bhakti, in which one follows rules and regulations, without an advanced understanding, one can perceive the ultimate result. As stated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikila saptavastasu jivan mukta sauchate. As soon as one surrenders to the Supreme Lord Krishna, prapadyamanasya, giving up all other activities, viraktir anyatra cha, one is immediately to be considered a liberated soul, jivan mukta. The Supreme Lord Krishna is so merciful that when a living entity understands that the personality Krishna is the source of everything and surrenders to the Lord, Krishna personally takes charge of him and reveals to him within his heart that he is under the Lord's full protection. Thus, devotion, direct experience of the personality of Godhead, and detachment from other objects becomes manifest even in the beginning stage of Bhakti Yoga. Since Bhakti Yoga begins at the point of liberation, other processes have their final goal salvation or liberation. But according to Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshayishami Ma Shujaha. If one surrenders to Krishna, one is immediately liberated and thus begins his career as a transcendental devotee with complete confidence in the Lord's protection. What is that verse in the beginning of the Bhagavatam? Sukha, Mukhad, Amrita, Dravya, Samyutam. It's like each person it passes through the mouth of, it gets sweeter. And I heard Gopi Pranadana Prabhu say something very wonderful. Even if you repeat something word for word, because it's coming through your mouth, it's mixed with something else, your consciousness. And therefore it becomes, even if it's exactly the same words, it becomes a little different in certain ways. And if you're realized, it becomes sweeter. And the more realized you are, the sweeter it becomes. So I want to offer some wild statement and say that these purports, so far as I can hear, are very sweet. I mean, they're intellectual, in the sense that they're clear and comprehensive, descriptions of what's going on in the verses. But they're very sweet. Is it just me? Huh? Not just me? Okay, we got a unanimous decision among the devotees who are here. You out in the audience, you can make your own mind up. Text 43. My dear King, the devotee who worships the lotus feet of the infallible personality of Godhead with constant endeavor, thus achieves unflinching devotion, detachment, and experienced knowledge of the personality of Godhead. In this way, the successful devotee of the Lord achieves supreme spiritual peace. So this is the last verse, I think, of this answer to the question, what is the greatest good, highest good? Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 271, you don't hear this quoted so much. Vihaya kaman yak sarvan pumangs charani nishpriyaha nirmamo nirahankara sashantim adigachati. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship, and who is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Srila Prabhupada comments, to become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. I will repeat that again with the permission of the present sadhus. Okay. To become desireless does not mean to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. There is a similar statement in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 19, 149. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataeva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. Because a devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruitive workers desire material enjoyment. Jnanis desire liberation. And yogis desire material opulence. Therefore, they are all lusty and cannot be peaceful. Generally, there are three classes of living entities afflicted with selfish desire. These are the bhukti-kami, mukti-kami, and siddhi-kami. Bhukti-kami refers to those ordinary persons who desire money and everything money can buy. Such a primitive mentality is based on the desire to enjoy money, sex, and social prestige. When a living being becomes frustrated with this hallucination, he takes to the path of speculative philosophy and analytically tries to track down the source of illusion. Sherlock Holmes, a materialist. Such a person is called mukti-kami because he desires to negate material illusion and merge into the impersonal spiritual state, free from anxiety. The mukti-kami is also motivated by personal desire, although the desire is somewhat more elevated. Similarly, the siddhi-kami, or the mystic yogi, who desires the spectacular powers of mystic yoga, such as reaching one's hand across the world, or making oneself smaller than the smallest, or lighter than the lightest, is also infected by material or selfish desire. Therefore it is said, Sakaldi Ashanta. If one has any personal desire, whether it be material, philosophical, or mystic, he will be Ashanta, or ultimately frustrated, because he will see himself as the central object of satisfaction. This egocentric concept in itself is in itself illusory and therefore ultimately frustrating. On the other hand, Krishna Bhakti Nishkama Ataeva Shanta. A devotee of Lord Krishna is Nishkama. He has no personal desire. His only desire is to please Krishna. Lord Shiva himself has praised this outstanding quality of the pure devotees of the Lord by stating, Narayana padak sarve nakutas chanabhibyati sarva pavarga narakeshu apitulyartha darshinaha. A person who is devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana is not afraid of anything. Elevation to the heavenly kingdom, condemnation to hell, and liberation from material bondage all appear the same to a devotee. Although the impersonalist philosopher proposes that everything is one, the devotee of the Lord is actually tulyartha darshi, or empowered with the vision of oneness. The devotee sees everything as the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore desires to engage everything in the service of the Lord, for the Lord's satisfaction. Since the devotee does not see anything as dvitiya, or outside the scope of the Lord's potency, he is happy in any situation. Having no personal desire, the devotee of Krishna is actually shanta, or peaceful, because he has achieved the perfection of life, love of Krishna. He is actually situated in his eternal constitutional position under the direct shelter and protection of the omnipotent Parameshwara, Krishna. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, this verse ends the answer given by the first of the 9 Yogendras, Kavi, to Maharaja Nimi's first question, what is the highest good? Just a beautifully organized, these purports are so beautifully organized. Okay, moving right along. Maharaj Nimi said, now, please tell me in greater detail about the devotees of the Supreme Lord. What are the natural symptoms by which I can distinguish between the most advanced devotees, those on the middle level, and those who are neophytes? What are the typical religious activities of a Vaishnava, and how does he speak? Specifically, please describe those symptoms and characteristics by which Vaishnavas become dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, this is like, the question of all questions, this one. Purport. And this one will go, I don't know, I didn't write it down. Oh yeah, this one will go to the beginning of the next chapter. The great purport. The great sage Kavi has informed King Nimi about the general external symptoms of a devotee of the Lord, namely his appearance, personal qualities, and activities. But now King Nimi asks how to make further distinctions among the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that the first class, second class, and lower class Vaishnavas can be clearly identified. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta. One should mentally honor any devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. Upadeshamrita 5. Any living entity who is faithfully chanting the holy name of Krishna is to be considered a Vaishnava, and at least within the mind is to be offered respect. But for practical advancement in Krishna consciousness, one should associate at least with a second-class devotee. And if one can receive the mercy of a first-class devotee of the Lord, one's perfection is very easily guaranteed. Thus, Nimi Maharaj is humbly inquiring, what are the character, behavior, and speech of devotees? The king wants to know the particular symptoms of body, mind, and speech by which the different categories, Uttama Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Kanishta Adhikari, are clearly identified. In response to the king's inquiry, another of the Navi-Yogendras, namely Havis, will give further explanation of the science of Krishna consciousness. Text 45. Shri Havis said, the most advanced devotee sees within everything the soul of all souls, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Consequently, he sees systematically everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and understands that everything that exists is eternally situated within the Lord. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati, tasyaham na pranashyami, sachame na pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Srila Prabhupada comments, a person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. The qualification for seeing Krishna everywhere is stated in the Brahma Samhita. Premanjana chodita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva rijayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundara machintya guna sarupam govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Shyamasundar, situated within the heart of the devotee. A devotee of the highest level of spiritual qualification is glorified for the expansiveness of his spiritual vision. For example, when the stalwart demon Hiranyakashipu questioned his self-realized son, Prahlad Maharaj, as to the whereabouts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlad, being a Mahabhagavata, or pure devotee, answered straightforwardly that the Supreme Lord is everywhere. The demoniac father then asked if God was in the pillar of the palace. When Prahlad answered yes, Hiranyakashipu, being a bona fide demon, struck the pillar with his sword, trying to kill God, or at least disprove his existence. Then Lord Nrsingadev, the most ferocious form of the Supreme Lord, immediately appeared and finished forever the illicit program of Hiranyakashipu. Thus Prahlad Maharaj can be accepted as an Uttama Adhikari devotee. A pure devotee is completely free from the tendency to enjoy things separately from the Lord's service. He does not see anything in the universe as unfavorable, because he sees everything as the expanded potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee's purpose in existing is to give pleasure somehow or other to the Supreme Lord. Thus, everything that a pure devotee experiences moment by moment increases his ecstatic loving desire to satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord. The three modes of material nature torment the conditioned soul, who absorbs his mind in the separated material energy of the Lord. The function of this separated energy, Binha Prakriti, is to take the living entity away from the reality, which is that everything is within Krishna, and Krishna is within everything. Being covered by gross ignorance, the bewildered conditioned soul believes that only the objects of his own limited vision actually exist. Sometimes such foolish persons speculate that if a tree falls in a forest with no one to hear it, there will actually be no sound. The conditioned souls do not consider that since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is all-pervading, there is no question of no one's hearing. The Lord is always there. The Lord always hears. As stated in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sarvatak Shrutimal Loke, the Supreme Lord hears everything. He is Upadrashta, the witness of everything. In this verse, the word Bhagavatotama, the most advanced devotee, indicates that there are those who are not gross materialists, but who are not the highest devotees. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, those who cannot properly distinguish between devotees and non-devotees, and who therefore never worship the pure devotees of the Lord, are to be known as Kanishta Adhikaris, devotees on the lowest stage of devotional service. Such Kanishta Adhikaris engage in worship of the Supreme Lord, especially in the temple, but are indifferent to the Lord's devotees. Thus they misunderstand this statement by the Lord Shiva in the Padma Purana. Aradhanam sarvesham Vishnor aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samacharam. O Devi, the most exalted system of worship is the worship of Lord Vishnu. Greater than that is the worship of Tadiya, or anything belonging to Vishnu. Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse, quote, Sri Vishnu is Sachit Ananda Vigraha. Similarly, the most confidential servant of Krishna, the spiritual master, and all devotees of Vishnu are Tadiya. The Sachidananda Vigraha Guru, Vaishnavas, and things used by them must be considered Tadiya, and without a doubt, worshipable by all living beings. That's in Madhya Lila 12:38 purport. Chaitanya Charitamrita. Typically, the Kanishta Adhikari is eager to engage his materialistic qualifications in the service of the Lord, mistaking such material expertise to be the sign of advanced devotion. But by continuing to serve the Supreme Lord and the devotees engaged in propagating the Lord's mission, the Kanishta Adhikari also advances in his realization and comes to the stage of dedicating his activities to helping more advanced Vaishnavas. Even such Kanishta Adhikaris can help ordinary living entities by their association, since at least the Kanishta Adhikaris have faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I want to say one point about this, and that is that there's a class of devotee who, denigrates the position of the Kanishta Adhikari. And usually those are people who think that they're Uttamadhikaris or Madhyamadhikaris. But the fact is that compared to the general mass of people, the Kanishta Adhikaris are also very elevated. Therefore, even though they're the lowest category of devotee, they are accepted as devotees by the Madhyam and Uttamadhikaris, so that by their association, gradually they can come up to Madhyam or Uttama platform. So they're actually special, even though they're still materialistic, or they're still mixed with material desires, material attachment. Even such Kanishta Adhikaris can help ordinary living entities by their association, since at least the Kanishta Adhikaris have faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of this faith, the Kanishta Adhikari gradually becomes inimical to those who are opposed to the Lord. As he gradually becomes more and more inimical to those who hate the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and becomes more attracted to friendship with other faithful servants of the Lord, the Kanishta Adhikari approaches the second class stage called Madhyama. In the Madhyama stage, the Vaishnava sees the Lord as the cause of all causes and the chief goal of everyone's loving propensity. He sees the Vaishnava as his only friends. He sees the Vaishnavas as his only friends within this morbid world, and is eager to bring innocent people within the shelter of Vaishnava society. Also, a Madhyamadhikari strictly avoids associating with the self-proclaimed enemies of God. When such an intermediate qualification becomes mature, the concept of supreme qualification begins to present itself. That is, one comes to the stage of Uttama Adhikari. A Kanishta Adhikari guru, one who is simply attached to performing religious ceremonies and worshipping the deity, without appreciation for other Vaishnavas, especially those who are preaching the message of the Lord, will especially appeal to persons interested in dry cultivation of knowledge. As a living entity develops mundane piety, he proudly devotes himself to regulated work and nobly tries to detach himself from the fruits of his work. Through such regulated, detached work, knowledge or wisdom gradually arises. As knowledge or wisdom becomes prominent, the pious materialist becomes attracted to altruistic and charitable work and gives up gross sinful activities. If he is fortunate, he then becomes favorable to the transcendental devotional service of the Lord. Desiring a mere intellectual understanding of devotional service, such a pious materialist may seek shelter at the feet of a Kanishta Adhikari. If able to advance to the Madhyam qualification, he then becomes attracted to a Vaishnava actively engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness. And when fully mature on the platform of intermediate devotion, he becomes attracted to the Mahabhagavata level and is awarded a glimpse of the exalted position of the Mahabhagavat spiritual master by the grace of Krishna within his heart. If one gradually goes on in the devotional service of the Lord, one becomes established as a Paramahansa Mahabhagavata. At this stage, all of his actions, movements, and engagements in preaching are dedicated solely to the satisfaction of Krishna. The illusory potency Maya has no power to throw or cover such a purified living entity. In Upadeshamrita 5, Srila Rupa Goswami has described this stage of life as Bhajana Bhigyan Ananyam Anya Nindadi Shunya Ridham. A Mahabhagavata, being empowered by the Supreme Lord Yogeshwara, is endowed with the supernatural power to inspire and give success to the Madhyamadhikari, who follows in his footsteps, and to elevate a Kanishta Adhikari gradually to the intermediate platform. Such devotional power springs automatically from the ocean of mercy found within the heart of a pure devotee. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that a Mahabhagavata has no desire to inflict punishment on the enemies of the Lord. Rather, he engages the Madhyamadhikaris, the Kanishta Adhikaris, in preaching work to purify the polluted mentality of the inimical souls who are falsely imagining the material world to be separate from Krishna. There are unfortunate living entities who are unable to understand the glory of a Kanishta Adhikari within the realm of devotional service, have no praise for the more advanced state. This is really important. This is the more deep way of saying what I said before. May I read it once more? Okay. There are unfortunate living entities who are unable to understand the glory of a Kanishta Adhikari within the realm of devotional service, have no praise for the more advanced state. There are unfortunate living entities who are unable to understand the glory of a Kanishtarikari within the realm of devotional service, have no praise for the more advanced stage of intermediate devotion, and cannot even begin to understand the most exalted stage, that of the Uttama Adhikari. Such unfortunate souls, attracted to impersonal Mayavad speculation, follow faithfully in the footsteps of Kamsa, Aga, Baka, and Putana, and are thus killed by Sri Hari. In this way, the community of sense gratifiers remains uninterested in service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, and according to the individual perverted vision of so-called self-interest, each materialist chooses his own misfortune in the form of repeated birth and death in various types of material bodies. There are 8,400,000 species of material forms, and the materialistic living entities select the particular flavors of birth, death, disease, and death they wish to inflict upon themselves under the hallucinations of so-called material progress. The analogy is given that a lusty man, being agitated by sexual desire, sees the whole world as filled with sensuous women. In a similar way, a pure devotee of Krishna sees Krishna consciousness everywhere, although it may be temporarily covered. Thus one sees the world just as one sees himself. Atmavan manyate jagat. On this basis, one may argue that the vision of the Mahabhagavata is also illusioned, since the Bhagavatam has already stated throughout that those conditioned by the three modes of material nature are not at all Krishna conscious, but in fact are inimical to Krishna. But although the conditioned living entity may appear inimical to the Lord, the eternal, unalterable fact is that each living being is part and parcel of Krishna. Although one's ecstatic love for Krishna may now be covered by the influence of Maya, by the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the conditioned soul will gradually be promoted to the stage of Krishna consciousness. In fact, everyone is suffering the pangs of separation from Krishna. Oh, read that one again. In fact, everyone is suffering the pangs of separation from Krishna. Because the conditioned soul imagines that he has no eternal relationship with Krishna, he is unable to ascertain that all his miseries are due to this separation. So it's not just the material body, it's separation from Krishna, because you've got a material body. This is Maya, or that which is not. Actually, to think that misery arises from anything other than separation from Krishna is to be an illusion. So when a pure devotee sees living entities suffering within this world, he correctly feels that just as he is suffering because of separation from Krishna, all other living beings are also suffering from separation of Krishna. The difference is that a pure devotee correctly ascertains the cause of his heartbreak, whereas the conditioned soul, bewildered by Maya, is unable to understand his eternal relationship with Krishna and the unlimited pain arising from neglect of that relationship. Srila Jiva Goswami has quoted the following verses, which illustrate the ecstatic feelings of the topmost devotees of the Lord. In the 10th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, the goddesses of Vraja speak as follows. Manalatas tadava atmani vishnum vyajayantya eva pushpa paladyaha pranatabhada vitapa madhudaraha premarishta tanavo The and trees of the forest, their branches weighed down by rich coverings of flowers and fruits, seemed to manifest Lord Vishnu within their hearts. Exhibiting eruptions of ecstatic love upon their bodies, they poured down rains of honey. Elsewhere in the 10th canto, it is said, Tat yastada tat upadarya mukunda gitam at avarta lakshita mano bababhagna begaha alinganasta gitam urmi bujayar murare grinanti pada yugalam kamalopaharaha. Hearing the songs of Mukunda's flute, the rivers then stopped their currents, although the minds of the rivers could still be ascertained from the presence of whirlpools. With the arms of their waves, the rivers seized the 2 lotus feet of Murari, taking help from the lotus plants, and thus he became trapped in their embrace. And in the last chapter of the 10th canto, 1090:15, the queens of Dwarka pray, Kurari vilapasitvam vita nidra nasheshe sapiti jagati ratriam ishwaro gupta bodhaha vayam iva saki kachchit gara nirveda cheta nalinayana haso dadali lilek chitena. Dear Kurari, now it is very late at night. Everyone is sleeping. The whole world is now calm and peaceful. At this time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sleeping, although his knowledge is undisturbed by any circumstance. Then why are you not sleeping? Why are you lamenting like this throughout the whole night? Dear friend, is it that you are also attracted by the lotus eyes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and by his sweet smiling and attractive words exactly as we are? Do those dealings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead pinch your heart as they do ours? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has also given Mother Yashoda as an example of an Uttama Adhikari. For Mother Yashoda actually saw all living beings within the mouth of Krishna during the Lord's Vrindavan Leela. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also points out in his commentary, Atra pashet iti tata darshana yogyataiva vibhakshita na tu tata darshana yasya sarva kalikata. In this verse, the word pashet, or one must see, does not mean that at every moment one is visualizing the form of Krishna. Rather, it means that one has reached the exalted platform of devotional service on which he is fit to see or is capable of seeing Krishna's form. If only those who constantly see the form of Krishna are to be considered Uttama Adhikaris, then Narada, Vyasa and Sukadeva cannot be considered topmost devotees, since they do not always see the Lord everywhere. Of course, Narada, Vyasa and Sukadeva are considered to be on the highest standard of pure devotional service, and therefore the real qualification is tadudikshadikya, or having an overwhelming desire to see the Lord. Therefore, the statement of Bhagavad Gita that a devotee should see Krishna everywhere, Yomam Pashati Sarvatra, can be understood in terms of the example of a lusty man's thinking that the world is full of beautiful women. Similarly, one should become transcendentally so desirous of seeing the Lord that one can perceive within the entire universe nothing but Krishna and his potency. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. In Srila Prabhupada's correspondence in 1969 with Professor J.F. Stahl of the University of California, Srila Prabhupada claimed that all of his disciples who were strictly following the intense program of Krishna consciousness were in fact Sudurlabha Mahatmas, who were seeing Vasudeva Sarvam. In other words, if one is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness with an intense desire to please the Lord and one day gain his association, it is to be understood that in one's life there is nothing but Krishna. I mean, my gosh, I got to say that one again. This is extremely beautiful. In Srila Prabhupada's correspondence in 1969 with Professor J.F. Stahl of the University of California, Srila Prabhupada claimed that all of his disciples who were strictly following the intense program of Krishna consciousness were in fact Sudurlabha Mahatmas, who were seeing Vasudeva Sarvam. In other words, if one is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness with an intense desire to please the Lord and one day gain his association, it is to be understood that in one's life there is nothing but Krishna. Marahari. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has warned us, however, that a mere theoretical or academic understanding that Krishna is everything does not qualify one as a first-class devotee. One must actually have developed love for Krishna. Therefore, it can be practically understood that anyone who enthusiastically adopts the Krishna conscious program and eagerly participates in the preaching activities of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is acting on the platform of a Madhyamadhikari devotee. When such a devotee becomes overwhelmed by his desire to serve Krishna and associate with the Lord, so much so that he is not attracted to anything else within the universe, he should be understood to be an Uttama Adhikari Vaishnava, as mentioned in this verse. Hare Krishna. That pretty nicely unpacks that purport by Rupa Goswami, or Prabhupada's purport to that verse. Upadeshamrita 5. Krishneti, I can't remember the Sanskrit exactly, but okay. So, if everyone still is conscious enough materially to ask a question, or maybe, anyway, it's just the opposite, or give a reflection or comment upon these wonderful purports, I'm sure everyone would like to hear. Yes, Deva Prasta.
Earlier verse,
earlier in the verse,
you read, stated in the purport that
it's stated in the purport that
material sense gratification.
That material sense gratification leads to material conception. That's a very wonderful reflection.
I don't know if maybe you can comment a little bit on that.
What do you think, O sages? How does material sense gratification lead to the impersonal conception?
I can only speak for myself. Because I want to enjoy the material world.
KC says he can only speak for himself because he wants to enjoy the material world, and yet he's here every night, eagerly, like an eager beaver, chewing at the dam of material, breaking loose the water of the flow of devotional love.
You can't simultaneously be a competitor of Krishna and also...
You can't simultaneously being a competitor of Krishna and love him, but even more so, you have to block him out. But that's what you were going to say next.
Well, yeah, so like
Apoanam.
I've heard that the word actually means not just forgetfulness, but also actively pushing away.
Yes. He says apoanam. He's heard that the word apoanam means not just forgetting, but actively pushing away. Very nice. Very nice. I mean, to put it in more blunt terms, like I'm a pretty blunt person, without such exalted intellect. But it seems to me pretty obvious that the curtain, there's a curtain. It's the consciousness that covers us from seeing that the material energy is also Krishna. And the consciousness, the curtain is that it belongs to me. So the forgetfulness that it belongs to Krishna is automatically enacted or activated when we think that something belongs to me.
Oh, and
Oh, Casey says, and to continue
that thought.
that thought.
When I want to renounce those objects of my sense gratification.
When I want to renounce those objects of my sense gratification,
I'm also demonstrating my attachment.
I'm also, demonstrating my attachment, yes. Therefore, Krishna says, raga dvesha vimuktastu. Attachment and aversion, vimuktastu, should be given up. And then one can follow strictly the regulated principles of freedom. And what? Get the mercy of Krishna. Ragadvesha vimuktastu vishayan indriyashtiran atmavasya vidayatma prasadamadigachtati. So both the raga and the dvesha are the same, they're both sides of the same coin, attachment or lust. And if one can actually regulate the senses and not succumb to those two, then he can follow the regulated principles of freedom. It's interesting, isn't it? Regulated principles of freedom. Normally one thinks that if I regulate myself, I'm restricting myself, so therefore I'm less free. But we're not less free, because we're servants of, if we don't do that, we're servants of the senses. And whatever the senses tell us to do, we do. But freedom means that if Krishna says, don't do something that you normally would like to do, and you agree not to do it, then you're free. But if you do it anyway, then you're controlled by the senses, and you're not free. And then if you can do that nicely, then prasada marigashati, what does that mean? You get the mercy of Krishna, which means what? You please Krishna, and he will reveal to you himself to you, even in the material energy, and you'll see the world is blissful. Even though there's so much chaos going on around, you won't see it the same. Same thing is there, you'll see the same forms. That point was made by the purport that I really appreciated, that purport that said, that doesn't mean that someone, sees a little picture of Krishna everywhere they turn their eyes, but you're seeing it as belonging to Krishna, and therefore to be used to pleasing Krishna, and therefore automatically they think of Krishna. And when they think of Krishna, they are seeing, in effect, Krishna. Okay, with that, I'm going to, my voice is going and it's getting late. It's 10 minutes to 9 already over here. So, thank you all for joining us with this joyful hearing of the Srimad-Bhagavatam 11th canto, which is a very important canto. And we wish you all to come back, and we wish you to tell your all friends about it, share your whatever they do, and I don't know anything about the Facebook actually. I'm just here by the grace of a devotee who said if you do this, it'll go out there. But now I'm learning gradually, day by day, a little more, and I can understand that this can go to a lot of persons, and it's very important, I think, that it does. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna, everyone. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the followers of Srila Prabhupada who have translated and commented on this wonderful 11th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam under the direction and guidance and mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.